norms and stereotypes to making sure that the butts are wet. Boy, girl, mom and dad want grown-up time, you're going mad. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.
Right, anyway. Welcome back.
Welcome back. I skipped my sound bite. You don't like it.
Dang it. I'm so sad. Welcome back to Boy, Girl, Mom, and Dad. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Nick.
And we're so glad you're here.
Hi. Welcome.
We are a novice parenting podcast. We like to talk things through with you, and that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, we were little baby podcasts.
Yep.
We still need bottles.
We're on the sippy cup, I think. Well, actually, right now we are drinking wine. It's a Friday afternoon.
We're technically sipping.
Sipping, there we go. We're having Hall, which we've talked about before. Sauvignon Blanc.
Shout out Hall.
Mm-hmm. If you're in Napa, definitely check them out. So today, the episode is episode 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bigger than 13.
Mm-hmm. And it's called Why Are We Even Going?
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're going to talk about pushing through hard things.
For those of you not watching, I just did a pushing motion, and you've missed that.
So I kind of want to back up before we get into...
Beep,
Thank
beep.
you.
That's what Cypress does when I pick him up, or when he sees a truck back up.
Yep. He does. That's true. Thank you to our sweet nanny for teaching that. It's really cute.
Yeah.
But we're going to go backwards a bit and talk about episode 11, which is called Having Kids Made Me Loosen Up, because as soon as we hit publish on that, I saw a couple things I just wanted to talk about. One, I didn't address this in the episode, but basically I feel like I'm a type A, but like having kids made me loosen up, having twins made me loosen up, like the title says. However, I think that one of the reasons it made me loosen up is because I just did a fast track to parenthood, like having 2 kids at once, because I feel like from what I've seen and read, a lot of people are that type A with their first kid, and then as the second, third, fourth, however many come along, they're just more and more lax.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it kind of slapped me into letting go a bit. And so I didn't address that. So I'm going to shout out to the twins, because I feel like it's literally them who did that, and just having 2 kids kind of pushed me along. But also on that same vein, in the same episode, the same week we published, I saw an article go live on Masonette, which is a super cute, I'll link it for you in the show notes. It's a super cute online kids boutique. They have toys, they have clothes, lots of things. But they published an article on their blog called Summer Moms, or Should We All Be Summer Moms? And the premise is similar to that of Yes Day, which I don't know if you've heard of the book. Jennifer Garner did a movie on the book where basically there's a day where the kids get to decide what they do. And it's all like, yes. So like eat ice cream for breakfast, whatever, go to the mall. There's like stipulations, but it's really cute and a good idea. I know my mom watched it and was like, oh, I wish that I would have thought of Yes Days. I think that they're a good idea to implement and just promote fun for everybody. But the article is basically saying this specific mom had her child during the pandemic, and so it was a very different time to have a child, and just like kind of coming out of that and being like, okay, it's not are we safe anymore, it's like, what should we have for dinner, like how can we eat healthy, and now it's like, okay, how can we have fun? Like she's had to gradually come out of like having a child in the pandemic. And so she's saying that like as the summer comes around, like it's just a fun time, and like there's no school and you get to be loosey-goosey, and like, there's ice cream, and I think of like sticky hands and smelling like chlorine and things like that. But she's like, at the end, she says, I think that summer mom should stay around for fall. What about you? And so it's just thinking about like not how to be more like loose, or we're still responsible here, but like how can you be more, wouldn't even say be more fun. It's just a good article. I'll link it for you, but it's just basically like how to have this summer mom mentality the whole year round. And I feel like that's what I was trying to implement with the title, like Having Kids Made Me Loosen Up. And as soon as they published it, I was like, dang it, that's the kind of title I was looking for, like summer mom, cool mom. I don't know, but it's a good article. And I just wanted to supplement our podcast discussion with that blog post because I thought it was really great. So I'll put it in the show notes for you.
I like it. But I like our title too.
I do too. I just thought it was a great, like, what are the odds that it comes out like the same week?
Yeah,
and basically is kind of touching on a similar idea and topic.
It means it wasn't supposed to be our title,
It wasn't supposed to be our title. But anyway, the other thing I was going to say is that I get a lot of DMs about the twins and they wear their helmets a lot around the house. And it's because we have the cute little retrospect cricket, the balance bikes. And so I don't let them ride that. Nick doesn't either. But like, we don't let them ride that without their helmets on. right?
To the point where they know if they want to ride a bike, they roll around for a second and they say helmet, helmet,
Yeah.
helmet until they can find their own helmet, and then they'll bring their helmet to
Yeah.
us to put on.
And I feel like I've already succeeded because they are buckling their helmet, and Nick Molinas over here refuses to buckle a helmet like he's Tony Hawk or something over here.
Look,
He'll put it on his head but will not buckle it.
When you were a pro skater that wasn't actually pro, you don't actually need to clip your helmet. It's a style thing. You wouldn't understand.
Honestly, you look cool, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the coolest move. Anyway, they wear their helmets even when they get off their bikes, because, like, honestly, it's kind of clutch because toddlers run around a lot. They hit their head on a lot of things, and it protects their head. So I leave it on their head. I'll take it off if they say, like, you know, if
Sometimes
you'll take
they
it
ask
off.
to take
Or
it
like
off.
if we're going upstairs, like, we'll take it off. But, you know, I leave it on, and it serves a great purpose. So you might consider leaving your child's helmet on.
Another place we require them to wear it is on the little climber thing that they've
Yes.
got. Now they've got like a climbing triangle, like a ladder
A
triangle
pickler.
thing.
I think the proper term is called like a pickler or whatever.
Yeah, and it's got a slide on one end, and we still are helping them up and down that thing.
Yes.
But they wear helmets while they're on that.
Yes, they do. And sometimes they play a game where they like to run into a wall and just for fun, and the helmet also helps their head then. But anyway, all that to say, kind of just sweeping up and getting all of our ducks in a row. It's TIFF time. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Did you already read it?
No.
Are you lying?
I might have seen a bit, but I stopped reading on purpose.
So today we're talking about cheese, which even though I try to limit dairy, it's not because I don't like it. I love cheese. But Nick and I eat cheese differently. And this is a couple things. First of all, it goes back to the theory I talked about the other week. I think it was last week on like the white sauce versus red sauce, like for pasta. Nick is like white sauce all the way, to the point where he also would choose a white cheese over a yellow cheese. And don't get me wrong, I love a good goat cheese, but I like a good sharp cheddar. So the first thing is for listeners, are you a white cheese or yellow cheese type of person? That's the first thing. The second thing is we have different shred desires. So when Nick shreds cheese, he shreds it. And so I'll do like a rubber baby buggy bumpers over here. When he shreds it, he likes a finer shred. I like the thick shred. And here's why. I like to be able to taste the cheese. There are some times when I think, you know, if you're making like a lemon ricotta pancake or something like that, you want it to mix in. But I want to be able to taste the cheese in the meal if I'm putting it in, right? Whenever I do the small shreds like Nick likes, I can't really taste them anymore. Like, I want to be able to taste it if I put it on there. And so I prefer yellow cheese overall, I think. And then I prefer larger shreds. So would you like to talk, Nick?
Sure. I prefer eating different cheeses differently, and I do not prefer white cheese to yellow cheese. The most cheese we get, most often cheese we use, is for breakfast burritos or breakfast. And the best way to do that, I think, is to have a sharp or an aged cheddar that's like a white classic old world cheddar that crumbles a little bit. And if you finely grate it, it melts quicker. And melted cheese is the way to enjoy a breakfast burrito or a breakfast sandwich. But if you remember, if I buy goat cheese, if I buy a brie, if I buy a manchego or something a little nerdier, I do little slices. Sometimes I break it and crumble it off. Feta, I just eat it right out of the clump, like I just crack it off.
That's true. We're not talking about shredding feta here.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, in general, I think that the preference that's in your mind for me is not true. It's just that the overwhelming data you have based on most of the cheese we buy is white cheddar and finely shredded.
Right. If you're going to shred cheese, you prefer a white cheddar.
No.
Yes.
That's just the most often one that I do shred.
That's the one you buy.
For breakfast
All
burritos.
of the data shows that what I just said.
Yes, I said that too, but the data is skewed.
So you're
towards
saying don't look at
burritos.
the data. It's just
no.
there.
I'm saying you're drawing a
I'm
conclusion.
surprised you haven't made a dad joke over there.
Dad.
I know.
Joke.
I just did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just don't think we're that far apart on this. I think one thing that we are far apart on is when you say you like to taste the cheese, what you're actually saying is you don't like the cheese to melt, which I think is insanity on breakfast items.
I like partially melted.
No.
If it's all the way melted,
you
I don't
like
get
an
to taste
edge
it.
of one piece to be melted, and then the rest of it to be like just cold.
No, that's sometimes like if I'm in a hurry. If I had
That's usually how you enjoy your
my
cheese.
druthers, then I would have it like partially melted. It's the same thing with butter on a waffle. Okay, so when I put butter on a waffle, I want it to get stuck in the little crevices, and then I don't want it to melt all the way before I eat it. I don't typically put syrup on my pancakes and waffles, but if I do, I want the perfect bite where there's enough butter where I can taste the butter along with the syrup and the waffle. I don't want it fully melted.
So in your mind, melted butter is tasteless.
I can taste it more when it's still there and hasn't melted all the way.
Interesting. Okay.
So anyway, you'll tell us what you think, what your preferences are. We'd love to know.
Yeah. Tell us if you like cold cheese on hot eggs.
No, I like, for example, if I'm putting goat cheese in a scramble in the morning, like I put it at the very end and it's mostly melted.
Mm-hmm.
I like to find a little surprise chunk in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, we can talk about what we're here to talk about now.
Yeah.
You ready?
We're 11 minutes in. That's pretty good based on
Pretty
the
good
last few episodes. It was
like
2 or 3
minutes.
hours before we got in or something, right?
Yep.
Exaggeration.
Okay. So the title of this, like I said, is called Why Are We Even Going? And I'm not sure if you even remember this scenario because I actually don't remember what happened or where we were going, but I think we had a stressful leaving scenario with the
which is not rare.
No,
with
it's
kids,
not,
let alone twins.
Right. It's not rare, but along with I think, it depends on your mood, like not you, collective you, us. It depends on my mood if how I can take something in stride and how hard of a day it's been and things like that. And I think this had been a hard day and it was a hard exit. And I think the twins were with us. I don't even really remember fully, but I got in the car and you're like, how are you doing? And I said, I'm just wondering why we're even going. And you said, I was waiting for you to say that. And I'm ready to push through.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
I do. The kids were with us. What you more specifically said was, why are we even going? It was a little more direct. But obviously you were stressed.
Well, good. I matched the title.
Yeah, it's justified. But yeah, that is what happened.
And I wasn't mean about it. I don't think. I was like feeling sad and discouraged.
Yeah. You were not mean towards me.
No.
You were frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, justifiably so.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about doing hard things and pushing through them. As I was titling this, to your point of like, why are we even going? Because that is what I said. Whenever I make these episode outlines or decide what we're going to discuss, a lot of the times it's based on a question that I had. And that's kind of how I operate when I write blog content, when I write podcast content. Like, what is a topic that I think would have been beneficial for me to hear that I think other people might enjoy? And that's kind of how I go with the title. So I don't know that someone's going to search, why are we even going? But that's the question I had. And I can guarantee that at least one of you listening right now has had that thought before. Well, why are we even going? Why are we even trying? That type of thing. And so that's why a lot of our titles are questions.
I think that a lot of people probably have had that thought, but I do think that's a different way in how our brains work. Because I don't typically have the why are we going thought. I typically have the like, we're still in it. We're going to get through. Not to say that you are not able to persevere. That's not my point, but your mind clicks very quickly to like, I want to pull out. I don't want to go. Why are we doing this? And why are we going is one of those.
I think that's what I say, but I think I persevere.
Well, if we have an argument before we're about to go out somewhere, you very
that's
quickly.
That's different. I'm talking about.
It's not different though. You enter into a place of stress. I'm not trying to criticize you. That's not my point because we deal with this differently. I'm not saying I don't carry, that frustrated feeling or the annoyed feeling with me just like you do, but your response is typically, oh, this thing happened the rest of the night. I can't have success in the rest of the night. Why are we even doing this thing? And I feel like that's the same way you approach when it's difficult to get out of the house with kids. Again, sometimes, understandably so.
I would say that's kind of rare for me to feel that way.
No. I mean, when it's a very stressful one, like this situation you're referencing.
I want to go back to what you were saying about like an argument. And like, I think that it's harder for me to get out of a funk. I don't just like, okay, let's go. And I feel like it's easier for you to do that or at least push past it. And I need a moment to like, focus. And actually I finished I mentioned it on last week's episode, but I finished the book by Leonard Sachs called Why Gender Matters. And it's a book for like parent and teachers about the emerging sciences of sex differences. And it's like crazy. I highly recommend it, even if you're not even if you're not a parent or a teacher. But one of the things that it talks about, one of the many things, is just how males and females are different in their approach to not necessarily arguing, but I'll say arguing for the sake of this. And one of the examples they gave was, I believe it was Leonard Sachs, the author, who is also a doctor, a medical doctor. He was giving a talk on the subject that like men and women have different friendships and they're able to kind of like get over things faster. So like men will fight and then like, okay, whatever, let's go. And like women take a while and often have hostility for the rest of their life. That's also mirrored in chimps and monkeys. I think it was chimps, because chimps aren't monkeys. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a zoologist, but chimps, that the male monkeys will fight for like maybe a minute and they're like, okay, whatever. And then female chimps can harbor resentment and like hostility for years. And like, I think that is true in males and females. Anyway, the example he was giving from this talk is a lady raised her hand and was like, I'm a litigator and I love it and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, did you like doing that type of thing when you were 7 or when you were a young child? Because that's kind of what they're talking about. When we get older, our brains are different and don't mirror some of these things. But she was like, you're right. I didn't like that when I was younger. And actually, it took me a while to come around to the process of litigating and being in that type of culture that's mainly males. And, you know, I would see them in a courtroom basically name calling and this type of, and Nick and I don't name call, but name calling. And, you know, then they'd be out after the trial just like grabbing a drink together and completely fine. And she was like, what? And I think you and I have had that kind of conversation, Nick, where I'm like, this girl was like completely rude to me at work today and then like acted like everything was normal outside of work. And in my head, like, I'm not being mean to her, but I'm like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And so
we're different. Well,
and again, I wasn't being rude. It's just like, I've kind of have like a wound on my arm from you earlier today, ma'am. And like, why are you talking to me now? Are you just, everything's fine now? Because I thought you hated me.
And to me, I'd be like, look what you did earlier. How cool, right?
It's going to scar real nicely.
Can you help me bandage this up?
But anyway, the female litigator was like, so I kind of got into their world. I'm like, oh, she was like, it's not like a joke, but it's like that's work and this is play essentially. And they're able to separate. I don't think that I can separate it. And I think a lot of females can't really separate it either. And
sure,
sometimes I just need a minute and I'll come out of it. But saying
which
something like, come out of it isn't going to make me come out of it. It's probably going to make me burrow, which is something I'm working on. So there.
Well, I also don't think that I do that to you very much anymore. Come out of it, calm down, chill out.
Yeah. But I think you also like
saying.
to talk about it. And sometimes like, I just need a minute. Yeah. I need to cool down for a minute and we'll come back to it.
Yeah. But to me, it's like, it's par for the course that getting kids into the car is stressful. Some days are more than others, but you know, it's not that it doesn't affect me. It's just like, it's easier for me to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, sometimes. I think. Yeah. I feel like you have had those days too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's not just like a one-sided thing, but all that to say, today we're going to be talking about doing hard things and just hopefully it will be encouraging to you just to know, like, obviously we've been talking about we fight, like people fight, people go through hard times. And here are some ways to basically get through it. And we want to encourage you. I want to say like a warm cup of coffee, but it's also summer. So maybe I'll say like a nice summer breeze. I don't know.
I mean, I drink warm coffee in the summer. So.
You do, but you also drink the coffee when it's cold. So
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how to push through. The first thing we're going to talk about is just calling on friends, asking for help. I know that is a hurdle. Like sometimes you don't want to ask, not you, but collective you don't want to ask for help, but that's really the first step in getting through it.
Yeah.
And whenever Nick said that thing to me about like, I was waiting for you to say that and I'm here to push through. That was before, I don't want to say Nick said it before Brene Brown, but it was along the same lines of, I don't know if you've seen the interview she did. I'll link it in the show notes, but she basically said marriage isn't 50-50. It's like, I think she said give and take. I don't 100% recall, but she's like, if Nick is at a 20, that doesn't mean that like, you're just coming in with your 50, like you have to make up and be an 80. Or, you know, if you're both at a 20, you at least know that both of you are at the 20 and have to like work towards that. And I just think that that's really great. This was talking about obviously in marriage, but I think, friendships go through it ebbs and flows as well, as far as like, who's giving here and who's giving here. So I think relationships in general can be like that. And I think it's a good thing Nick and I have started asking each other, like, what's your number? Like, where are you at today? Just so like we can get a better gauge on how the other person is feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I liked about that piece from Brene Brown is that, there are also going to be times where both parents are really low in their percentage, So like even just calling that out is helpful. Like if I ask you and you're like, I'm at like 20 or 25%, like it's a rough day for me. And I may have just come out of work or something else, or I've been in it with you with the kids or something, and I'm feeling the same way. We could both be bringing a total of a 50% parent to the table for the babies, So like it's valuable for us to know that in that situation, we would both need to step up a little bit. In the situation where like you're lower and I'm feeling a lot better, I can step up a little bit more and help fill that gap, and vice versa. I think both are, there's like a third scenario in my mind.
Yeah, but I also
like we both might be low.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that that's also still valid to know if you're both low, because I feel like that allows you the ability to grant more grace and being like, okay, they're feeling like this too. And like, maybe you'll overlook something and the other person gets kind of snappy or snippy because you know that they're going through it too. And it just kind of like gives you a different perspective.
Yep.
Which I think is great.
Yep.
All right. So we said call on friends. The next one, I said this to Nick whenever we were going over the outline, and I just want to make sure that it's clear. But let's say you don't have a friend you can call on. Let's say you don't have a spouse or a friend or a parent or someone you can call on, and you're alone. It helps to say whatever the problem is out loud. And I say the problem because whenever I said it to Nick, I said it out loud. And he was like, I just don't see how saying I'm alone out loud helps. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
I'm over here reading in perfect English.
It gave me like the Grinch, the Jim Carrey, the Grinch vibes of when he's like in his cave and is like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm an
idiot.
Well,
yeah.
It comes back the
when the
other
echo
way.
was different.
Yeah, but that's kind of vibes it was giving me. But just like getting it out of your head, say it out loud. Writing it down, I think, helps too. But if you leave it in your brain, I feel like your brain can go nutso on that type of thing and just like get in and like make you feel very alone. Like, and if you're physically alone already, I feel like that makes it even worse.
Can you break apart when you say it again? You said when you're keeping it in your
when you're
brain.
keeping whatever is the problem, what's bothering you, what you're trying to get through inside. And like, I'm not even saying if no one else knows, but like saying the problem, the issue out loud kind of releases it from even to yourself, releases it from your brain alone.
Yeah.
So
and it's okay to do.
Yeah, it should do it. Should 100% do it. So anyway, that's kind of like being your own voice of reason. I hope you have someone to call on, but I know that there are some times where we don't have anyone.
It's good.
Okay. So the next thing to get through it, this is kind of like, it's supportive. So you may not be going through the issue, or you could be going through something together, or you see the other person is going through it. But physical touch, is like chef's kiss. So something that, what?
That was
physical. Oh, you're just touching me? Okay, I was like, is there something on my face that I don't know about? But basically, it's an affirmation to help you push through or help you feel seen and acknowledged. So, for example, when Nick and I are flying on an airplane, each one of us has a baby. Sometimes each baby is crying. We might give each other a thumbs up or like a question mark thumbs up.
We'll reach like back or forward and do leg taps because we
can't sit on the same row.
Sit on the same row.
Yeah,
whole different subject for a different time. But yeah.
So like just like to check in and be like, hey, I'm here, or like, do you need to switch? That type of thing.
I'm in it with you.
Yeah. Or like whenever we've done something really hard, like leaving the house all together on time, we'll get in the car and like Nick will put up his hand for like a high five or a fist bump or something. So it's just like we did it. Like that's keeping you connected, and I think just like affirming. Another one,
it reinforces the team.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
Because like one may be feeling it more than the other, but still you're both there and you're both supporting each other. So like it's you high five the people that you're in it with and who are on your team typically. Yeah.
And like, again, that is just like, you don't even have to say anything. You don't even have to go over it, rehash. It's just like high five, fist bump. We did it. Another thing, I don't think we've talked about it, but mine and Nick's like pet name for each other is Bear. And we do these things called like bear paws. We'll do it on the camera. Can they see? No, we don't ever do that. We've literally never done that. Well, like do it on your chest or something. I can't see. It's like this on the camera. But on the other person. And it's just like a love tap. Like a, hey, I see you. I love you. I'm thankful for you type of thing. Again, no words necessary.
Yeah.
And I just think that being able to give some type of physical touch in an affirmation type way is a great way to push forward through hard things.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is similar, but it's actually verbalizing it. And something that Nick and I try to do is whenever we see something that the other person did, thank them for it. And this isn't like, having read a billion like Facebook posts and things like that, I know that like sometimes it can be catty as far as like, you know, household chores broken up and like whose responsibility things are and like getting mad about things like that. This is not like that at all. It's like at the end of the day, Nick will look at me and like, thanks for making dinner for us. Or I'll be like, thank you for taking out the trash. Like acknowledging something that we noticed was done. We don't have to do it, but in the act of doing it, it makes the other person feel seen, valued, loved.
Yeah, and this does not only apply to the things that spouse specifically does. So like for example, I typically clean the kitchen at night and I'll start the dishwasher and make sure the floors are clean and everything like at night. That's the pattern we've fallen into. So I'm not only thanking you if you're stepping in to take one of those things from me that I typically do. I'm trying to recognize, I mean, you do it too, but I'm trying to recognize, oh, you've done this thing. That's helped both of us. All of this obviously helps both of us. So say it. And I think I'm somebody who needs to hear that a little bit more than you, but I think we're both doing it and saying it. Like you said, not sarcastically, like legitimately, oh, I noticed that the trash was taken out. Like, thanks for doing that. It's also, we haven't talked about this, but I think it's a cool thing that we're setting up too for the twins. Just like a constant like baseline of, hey, if you see something that benefits you or that you appreciate that somebody else has stepped in and done for you, regardless of why, thanking them is something you should do.
Yeah. And there's also benefits to being thankful. Like legitimately there are studies, and I'll put them in the show notes, that when you're thankful, it can boost your mood, immunity, sleep, among other things. Like it's just like great all around, to be honest. And I think it just, again, it goes with mood, but like sets your attitude better. And when you're feeling, if a partner says that to you, you're feeling happy about it.
And you're feeling appreciated.
Appreciated, right. Which then can help your relationship in general. You're less likely to become frustrated at a little thing because you're like, oh no, he or she appreciates me and values me. And so like, I think it can decrease fights as well. I don't think that's in the study. That's just my thought on that.
Yeah. It also, this is just a random thought, but it also probably reinforces the teammate atmosphere that we talked about earlier. Like if you're saying thank you for these little things, you're forcing yourself to recognize them first to be able to say thank you. And that probably reinforces like, oh, she's doing a lot of these things for me. And I'm noticing them more because I'm trying to thank her more, and vice versa. You know, you feel more appreciated, like you said.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said though about like needing to hear those things. And I feel like that's kind of a guy thing, or like I can think of a couple guys who are similar to that. And what Nick means when he says is like, if for example, hey, can you make sure to take out the trash? It overflowed today. He might hear that and think that I said everything he's done is bad or wrong. Like he might say like, oh, and this isn't like recent, but in the earlier days of like, oh, but I cleaned the kitchen. Is that just invalid now because I didn't take out the trash type of thing? Right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's more like when I hear frustration from you about something that I didn't do, or something that you expected me to do that hasn't been done yet. It's difficult to hear that and not also hear, hey, I've seen and I appreciate and thank you for these other things, you know? And like when it's kind of nitpicky, but it's,
nitpicky.
Yeah. But it's what happens in my head. It's like,
yeah,
if I'm consistently cleaning the kitchen, like I have been every night pretty consistently, and there's one where I couldn't get to it, sometimes in the morning, you're pretty frustrated about that, and not directly at me, but like, it's interesting to me when you say, like, oh, my morning was kind of thrown off because like I had to fix the stuff that was in the sink and empty the dishwasher that wasn't like start the dishwasher because it wasn't clean or whatever. Like I understand how those things can be frustrating in general, but when you communicate that to me in the wake of like 58 days in a row of doing it and then 1 or 2 of not, like that's when I get frustrated. So to your point, I'm not trying to say it's your fault, but like to your point, hearing the appreciation building up to that will soften the blow of like, hey, this was tough.
Yeah. Know? And it's never, well, I mean, I can be mean, but sometimes those cases that you're talking about, like I'm not being mean, it just like hit you in a way that because you didn't have that built up or were thinking about it in that manner. No, you're just gonna be.
I just don't like it when people say I'm not being mean.
No. I meant like I'm not trying to hurt you. That's what I mean.
Yes.
Like for example,
I can agree with that, and I know that. It just doesn't sound like that sometimes, but I do know.
Right. That. Well, I think we talked about it on a different episode where I like texted you and was like, hey, just so you know how my brain works, because our brains work very differently. Like whenever I think it was like a kitchen moment like you're talking about where it was like the kitchen was kind of in disarray and I was like, I had to do this, this, and this. And it just, that's why I get so like specific about like picking things up and cleaning up because it just kind of sets back everything. And I was taking care of the twins that day. We didn't have a nanny that day. And so it kind of just like pushed everything and it made you sad because it was like, essentially you stink or something like that when really I was just trying to explain, hey,
you were trying to help me understand.
Yeah.
And I was hearing you say that I was the cause for the falling dominoes of your morning.
Yeah. Which is not what I was trying to say in that instance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to touch on that because I think that some people can maybe relate to that and, you know, maybe they can start saying things out loud and help.
To your earlier point, if you're feeling yourself needing to be sarcastic about thanking somebody for something, just don't say that. You know, like it's just obviously not the point, but I can understand if you've built up some resentment and you're like, oh, thanks for finally taking out the freaking trash. Like, don't do that. Keep that in your mind, you know?
No. And like at the end of the day, like as far as like chores go, we have stuff that like we both have fallen into a pattern, but I'd say like, you know, I take out the trash, I take out recycle. I'm not afraid to do someone else's quote, other job, end quote, because at the end of the day, probably to a fault, if I want something done, I'm going to do it. And so that wasn't about you. I understand how that could have been heard differently, but I'm talking about like myself. If it needs to be done, I'm going to like step up and do it. That's why I never liked group projects.
Yeah.
Which I think we've talked about before. But anyway.
You're kind of in a group project.
I love being in a group project with you. Yes. So basically all that to say, remember that when you're going through something, when you're pushing through something hard, you are in turn being a good example for your children and even really anyone, your friends, your partners, whatever. They see you. And even if you mess up, even if you like, that's even better, honestly, because they see you like fall down and get back up. That's great. And like voicing, like say like, whoops, I messed up on this, or like, I'm sorry that I did this. Like and like giving an example for your child that builds emotional intelligence, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking about?
What? Oh yeah.
I'm sorry signal in ASL, which we talked about from the bear recently.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that, your point here. You're in it together. Just because you're both frustrated doesn't mean you have to take it out on each other, you know? So like to your point, the positive affirmation pieces, the little tiny pieces, like they're little investments in the confidence you have in each other. And they will hopefully in the times where it's tough, like encourage you to know that your person's on your team. But in those moments where it still feels like she's not helping me or he's not helping me, like we're both in it, but I'm doing all the work or whatever, like use your tools of like, let's set this aside. Let's not blame each other. Like we're on the same team. It's not you against the kids. That's not what I'm trying to communicate. Just like there's a goal, right? Your goal is to successfully load the kids in the car, get the kids on the plane, like feed the kids, like whatever it may be, get to the party, like go to the thing you're trying to go to, like whatever it may be, that's the goal. And it's not you against the kids, but you are responsible with your spouse or whoever's there to help you to do that thing. You may be frustrated with each other in the moment, but try to continue to treat each other as teammates.
Yeah. And honestly, this is a lot of, obviously we're a parenting podcast and this is a lot of like parenting examples, but these tools that we're talking about are great regardless of if you're married, have kids, whatnot. Like it's great for
whoever's around you helping
relationships
with the
in
kids.
general. And I think you were, whenever I just said that about like being an example for your kids, like you were talking about our last bullet of like, you know, saying it and acknowledging things, but really all of the tips that we've given of how to push through are great for your kids to see.
Yeah.
Asking for help, knowing they can ask for help and it's not a sign of weakness, saying things out loud, like equipping them with that tool, you know, saying and acknowledging and saying thank you for the little things, like that's great manners, and just like being able to be thankful and see that people around you are doing things and helping. Because I know people who, you know, don't necessarily see what's going on. It just goes like over their head. Maybe their parents did everything for them and they just still can't see like the moving parts around them, and just like having them be aware is just like fantastic. So really,
also like allowing yourself to be frustrated and show that frustration, you know, and still persevere,
and
like
how to work
still
through
keep
it.
going and don't let it shut you down, you know, because like being in a tough situation isn't weird. Being frustrated by a tough situation isn't weird. Like it's, the goal is not to suppress that and put on a fake happy face. It's like, to your point, your kids, it's good for them to see, oh, this is a tough thing that they're doing and they're doing it and they're going to get through it, you know?
Well, we talked about it in, it's the one we just, episode 11 maybe, where, you know, like having a perfect schedule for your kids, or let's say perfect schedule or everything goes right in life for your kids, will not prepare them well for life, because consistency masks as stability.
Right.
And so I feel like this is the case of like, it's not the consistent schedule that you give them that's going to make them stable. It's literally learning how to respond to the things that life throws at them, like what we just talked about.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, laundry is inevitable. Whether you're at home, you're going out, on vacation, all of it, you got to do laundry. And wait, unless you don't have to. Thanks to Rinse. Nick and I have been using Rinse for the better half of the year, and really better half, honestly, because our lives have gotten better with it. But we want to give you a chance to try it as well and give you $30 off. So use the link in our show notes, in our YouTube description, and try them out.
They're great. They're awesome. You fill up a bag, you drop your bag off on the front porch, they come pick it up. 24 hours later for wash and fold, it's there ready for you. Maybe a day longer, it's there for wash and hang dry. They've got dry cleaning if you want it. It's great. Use it.
The only thing better would be if they had a service to come and put it away as well, because sometimes it takes us a day.
Rinse.
1 to 2 business days to put it away. But either way, we love it and we want you to love it too.
Go use it.
I think that's it on the topic. I feel like it's a little bit short today, but short and sweet. Got to the point. We do have a couple of Dear BGMADs.
Well, I have one more thing to say.
Oh, okay.
It's not in your notes.
I have one thing to say.
I don't know what that's from.
Sashay.
Oh, okay. It's probably a High School Musical thing. I don't know.
No.
If you do not push through the hard things, as we're recommending, the easy things become the hard things. You know?
Yeah. You know what? I'll say with every hard thing we've gone through, it makes me feel that much more resilient. Whether it's like, you know, when we drove from Texas to California and we were each in our own car, like that made me build up.
His pre-kid.
And each in our own car. I was with the 3 pets at the time and all of our plants, and Nick was driving the Penske truck with his car attached. And honestly, I was like, I can drive 15 hours in a day by myself. I can do anything.
I can do anything.
And that's kind of how I feel with like, you know, having twins. And like, I have twins. I can do anything. Like it just has built up stamina, I guess.
I would agree with that. Yeah. But like, imagine like how hard would loading up the kids and going to church, or loading up the kids and going to get lunch, how hard would that feel if we weren't willing to A, consistently do those small things, and B, take them on really hard things like road trips and flights?
You know what? That also goes along with my theory that like take your kids when they're younger on flights, on trips, because it never gets easier. And whenever you're making it through those smaller, sometimes more chaotic times, that's building up the endurance to do it when they're older.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Wait, why are you teary-eyed?
Oh, I don't think I mean
You're
to be.
Definitely teary-eyed.
No, I just like, I like that we...
Nick cries every episode in case you didn't realize.
There's a prize for everybody who finds where I do. No, I just like that. I mean, I've said it before. I like that we do that, right? It sounds like a prideful statement, but I was talking about it with a friend last night. Like, I like that we do that on purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's, when I say do that, I like that we push through to, this is something we want to do. Kids are coming. Or this is something the kids are going to love. We're going to go do it. It's not just always about us, but like, I like that the lean in, even though we know it can be hard, is a consistent and normal thing for us, which was our intention, as we discussed when we had the kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's part of the recommendation we're making, is like, go do it. Here are some tools.
It's gonna be hard.
But go do it.
Grab a shovel. Push through.
Dig to China. I don't know. I was trying to keep with your.
I meant like push through it. I guess I don't know. There's a metaphor. There's a metaphor in there somewhere. We'll let you kind of figure it out. But yeah, let's move on. Casey, we need a tiff and we need an Ask BGMAD sound. Thank you.
Casey, the person who did our jingle, if you're listening, you're employed again.
I think I've said it before, but my mom was like, that's so cool. You found a song that went perfectly. How'd you find that? I'm like, Mom, our friend wrote it for us. So yes, our friend Casey wrote and performed it. We love you, Casey. And for the first segment of Ask BGMAD today, I'm going to read it directly from the write-in. Okay. My husband doesn't understand that I need a break or a change of scenery regarding taking care of the kids. I love being a stay-at-home mom, but it's a lot of running around, especially with multiple children. I've tried asking for coverage here and there, but he just says he's tired when he gets home from work. What would you do?
I take issue with a few things here.
Okay.
And it's going to make me sound prideful. I'm going to try and not make me sound prideful. I don't understand why a husband would not want to help. So I realize that a lot of them don't. I'm just saying it's surprising to me that if you're communicating in a humble way, like, hey, I got something I need to do. Like, it's been a long day. Are you able to watch?
You don't even have to have something to do. Maybe I just need a break.
I know I was getting to that. Like, just any reason or anything, even if it's not a reason, like, I would hope that your husband steps in. The other thing I have issue with is, so there's a TikTok account and a YouTube account that I really, really like. It's another parenting one, but it's run by a father. It's called The Tired Dad. And his content's great, but that's not what I'm talking about. I love the name. There are scriptures I love that talks about this. Like, if your goal as a parent is to not be tired, you're failing as a parent. So don't tell me I'm too tired and that's an excuse for stepping in to help.
Yeah.
There's another one. I don't know if this is a Bible verse or a quote, but a lot of my dad friends have talked about this with me. If you go to bed and you're tired and you're exhausted, it's probably an indication that you were a good dad that day. You know? And of course, other things can make us tired besides being a father or a mother, but like, you know, it's your goal should kind of be, I'm tired. It shouldn't be a reason that you're not able to step in. So I guess I'm kind of speaking to the dad here, to the father a little bit. I think my assumptions are that the mother, who it seems like that's who's writing in, my assumptions are that you as the mother are communicating in a humble and kind and not accusatory way. Hey, are you able to help? I recognize as a guy, like if I'm asked in a way that sounds like, can you get off your butt and go do this?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that carries with it the assumption that I wouldn't. And I can see how people harden their response to something like that, don't want to help if somebody's talking to them that way. So, you know, maybe that's a piece of advice for the mom, but like, help.
Yeah.
That's the whole theme of this episode, is help each other in ways in which to help each other, like help.
Yeah, I guess, again, I say it all the time that you're an anomaly just because I know that I'm lucky, and I'm not trying to make you cry, but like, I just, like, I don't have to wonder if you're going to help me on Saturday mornings or if you're just going to go do something. Like, no, I'm not thinking of anybody specifically.
Is it a bad time to tell you I'm going golfing?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you're not just going to like go golfing all day and leave me be, which I love Cypress and Olive, but yeah, help is great. Help is great. And to be able to ask for it. And so, first of all, like, my answer to you would be like, I'm so sorry.
I should have started with that.
It's okay. you were going in at the dad. Like, I think that that's what your angle was. And I think that makes sense as a dad.
Yeah. And I know you're about to give your answer. Sorry. I don't mean to diminish whatever else may be making you, this father, tired. Other things besides being a dad and being a mom can make you tired.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my point is just
sickness, work,
being tired is not a reason you're not able to help as a father.
Yeah.
Or a mother.
I feel like in the beginning, which like I still am tired, but like if people are like, how are you? I'm like perpetually tired.
Yeah. That's like the joke as parents.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But basically, I'm sorry. I think Nick answered in a way that validated you, but it didn't answer in a way of like how to move forward, perhaps in a way of like
that's probably true.
How to make sure that you're not asking in an accusatory way. I'm not trying to start a fight here, but like if you're asking in a way like, hey, could you, that I would be a little bit more forceful in this, and not in a mean way, but like I always like to say, I wasn't always like this, but I like to say like, don't ask a question you don't want the answer to. Like, so I wouldn't say like, hey, well, and I do, Nick and I hold my hand. Like, I definitely don't speak
Physical
to you this
touch.
way.
We've talked about
I
this.
definitely don't speak this to you this way. I'll be like, hey, can I go to Pilates on Tuesday morning, you know? But like, if it's not getting through, I don't know. I would probably say like, I'm going to go for a run right now and you're going to watch the kids. I remember when we lived in Dallas, like when I was working, there was like a big ice snowstorm that was coming in. I needed to drive home. I had a bunch of highway. I did not want to drive on ice. So I had friends around me being like, wait, can you ask our boss or whatever? Like if we can go, I'm like, I'm not asking a question I don't want an answer to. I am saying I am driving home and I will work from home the rest of the day. You know, that's just what I mean. And also in the book that I mentioned earlier about how boys and girls, males, females are wired differently. I think I said this last week. I don't remember. You need to speak louder for males to really hear you, about 8 decibels or 3 turns of the knob on the car.
Not yell.
Not yell.
Volume
No,
and yelling are
not
different.
yell. Sorry.
Don't apologize. You didn't say that. I'm just drawing a distinction.
But maybe it's like speak a little bit louder for them to really hear you is what I mean. Do not yell. But that's what I would do as far as like saying that. Nick is really good about that and like basically forcing me. He's not telling me to work out. That sounds bad. But like, he was like, you need to go take some time for yourself.
That was a weird laugh.
Some of those, you know, like he knows I love yoga. Go do yoga. Like he was the one who basically made me get back into it because I wasn't willing to make the time for myself. But
well, I just have standards for how much you're supposed to work out.
You're not helping.
No, you're right. But it's if you remove the workout piece, I know that something that brings you joy is being active.
Yeah.
The same way that being social, cooking, right? So that there are things that I know that you like.
Mm-hmm.
So me saying, hey, go do this is me saying I'm like more than willing and expecting of myself that I will step in and be there for the babies.
Yeah.
So that you can go do this thing. It's not about the fitness. It's about,
right. No, but mental health, I think, is what that's helpful.
Sure.
And I also think that Nick is great anyway, but something that was really helpful, I think, is because of the amount of paternity leave you had. You know what it's like to be with them, with the twins. And so you, I think, have a greater respect there. I know that's not like what everybody has the capability of to do, but like because you experienced it, you also understand it better.
Early on, I would agree with that. That's true. Now it's still true. I think it's the other blessing is that I'm able to work from home and step in between meetings and my own personal work to help when I can.
Yeah.
But something you just said made me think like a call to action to parents is like all parents should know what it's like to take care of their children.
Yeah.
Even if you're in a we've talked about different balances of childcare and how there's not a wrong one, right? It's you should, in my opinion, agree with your spouse what the balance is going to be, what your family's going to look like, right? So like for us, you take most of the burden, or not burden.
You're not a burden, Cypress.
Yeah, sorry. You watch them more consistently during the business day, Monday through Friday, than I am able to, based on the differences in how we work. Even if I went into the office, that is not an excuse for me not to understand how to take care of the children. So that's what I'm trying to say is regardless of what your childcare distribution looks like between you and your spouse or you and whoever's helping to raise the kids, knowing what it's like, to your point, to be around them, what it's like to hang out with them, what it's like to raise them, what it's like to feed them, what they need. Like both parents need those things.
Yeah. And I guess basically what I was trying to say to like summarize that is like, put it on the calendar things, an hour here, like I'm going to work out here, whatever, put it on the calendar. And like, I'll often like invite Nick's work email too. So it shows up like on his,
that may not be okay for everybody, but that's the point, is visibility. So like make sure your spouse,
even if like if we have the nanny, I put stuff on your calendar so you can see it of like what's, so you're aware of what's going on, just the awareness there. But in the meantime, also like say that doesn't work, or you're still trying to figure out how that works for your family, I would say try to get a change of scenery. It's really hard for me, I think, to get up. No, I think it's hard for me to get outside, period, just because of where we live. It's hard for me to get 2 kids out and get a stroller down like 2 sets of stairs and things like that. So I don't leave as often as I think I would if I lived somewhere else, and or if I was watching them 100% of the time, I would 100% have to do this. But like, get out of the house, like get some sunshine on your face, get a change of scenery. It doesn't have to be outside if it's hot. Go to a library. There are free things. You don't have to spend money, go to a park. Just getting out of the house makes it go faster. And I know, don't come at me about like, oh, you only have 18 summers with your kids and blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to make you feel sad that it's fleeting. In the same way, you're allowed to want the day to go by like faster. Like if it's a long day or it's a hard day, like that's a valid feeling.
Yeah.
And so by it's hard with multiple kids. It's hard with one kid. But get out of the house, change the scenery. And I think that your day might be a little bit easier. There might be harder aspects to it, but I think some of the other aspects, like maybe they nap longer because you wore them out more, that type of thing, could make your day more easier. And at the very least, I think help everyone's mental health. Oh, there's another thing that I wanted to say is that there's a quote I came upon by Eckhart Tolle, who's a German teacher, and it's, the moment you realize you are not present, you are present. And I wanted to say that because my brain has a billion tabs. It's always running, especially like at night. We're trying to go to sleep and I'm like, hey, Nick. And it's just like, that's just how my brain is. And that's hard to turn off, especially like working for myself when I'm watching the twins, when I'm playing with Cypress and Olive. And I have to consciously make an effort. So something that I do to try to be present is I put my phone out of my reach. I wear my watch, my Apple Watch. So if like a call comes through or somebody like Nick needs something, like I can see it come through, but I don't have my phone at my fingertips. And when I focus on them versus like thinking about like, oh man, their nap was short, I wanted to get this done today, I didn't get it done. It is much more enjoyable for me. So maybe it's dinner you're thinking about, like, oh shoot, I didn't need to prep dinner this morning or whatever. Like, it'll all work out. But being present with them in that moment makes it more enjoyable for everyone, I think, for the children, for the person watching them, playing with them. And like one way I do it, I don't remember if I said it here before, but I know I've told people, is like I have trouble like meditating. For example, like in yoga and Shavasana, which is like the corpse pose at the very end where you're just laying really still and you're supposed to not think about anything. I have to think about Fantasia. I picture Mickey Mouse like with the mop or the broom or whatever, like like just like mopping everything away.
That is so funny.
It's like, but instead of just like cleaning the floor, it's like that thought. And so like just trying to focus on the topic at hand, on the people at hand, what we're doing, having fun. So I just thought that was a good quote to share, because if you're stressed out and stuff, you're focusing on the wrong thing in the moment.
One thing I want to add about that I like to say it again, the moment you realize you're not present, you are present. It doesn't say feel bad that you weren't, so like take some pride and be appreciative of yourself and your mind that you were able to recognize like, oh, I should get back to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And be more present, like it's not, the point is not the shame of you that you strayed or whatever. It's that you're there. If you're thinking about it, that deserves praise.
Right. So I think that goes along with like, oh, if you're worried about like, oh, was I a bad mom today or was I a bad dad today? The fact that you're thinking about that means that you weren't.
Bad parents don't think, am I a bad parent? Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So our next one, the last one for Ask BGMAD today is, another write-in. Can I make my kid not be shy? A friend told me that their child isn't going to be shy because they make them wave to everyone.
That was a shot at me. Keep going.
No. That was actually what was said. It had nothing to do
is
with
this
you.
From me? Did I say
No,
that?
it's not from you. And okay, I'm going to start with this one.
Yes.
So, can I make my kid not shy? No. I think you can do things to make them social or comfortable in a room, but that doesn't make them not shy. And specifically in this scenario, they were talking about that, 13 to 16 month range where a lot of kids will start to feel more anxious and like separation anxiety. And I think both of the twins have experienced this, one maybe more than other at that time. But my point, and the reason why Nick thought it was a shot at him is because he like makes them wave at everybody. Well, not right now, but like as a baby, he'd be like, hi, like on an airplane and stuff like that. And my point in saying that is that he did that and they still went through that phase. It's a common phase that children go through and actually shows them like being aware. So no, I don't think you can make your kid not shy. But I think that you can make them feel sociable and comfortable in a room, which is, I think, better because it's okay if somebody's shy. And I think the best thing you can do for a child who does end up shy is not making them wave at somebody. That can be traumatic. So like we've talked about it before, but like if Cypress or all don't want to wave, we're like, okay, no worries. You don't want to high five? No worries. You don't want to hug? No worries. Like we're not going to force them to do things. So to answer the question, no, but I don't think being shy is the worst thing if you give them tools to still be comfortable in a room.
I have a question back to the listener.
Okay.
If I could. Why do you want your child not to be shy?
So the listener who asked this didn't ask for them. They were curious because one of their friends told them this.
Okay, then it's for their friend.
Yeah.
I don't expect an answer. I'm just...
I think they wanted them to not go through the attachment phase and like cry and like not want to be handed off.
Okay, I get that. That seems slightly different than what I thought we were talking about. What I'm trying to say is I don't see being shy as a fault.
Right. That's, I think, what I was trying to say too. And I'm not sure about the person who asked this.
Sure.
They maybe did. I don't know.
Let's zoom out from whoever asked. Like, yeah.
Oh.
What? Is that your jellyfish or your octopus?
No, I'm zooming out.
Oh, right.
On a screen.
I know, I was making a joke.
Oh, okay. Watch it on video.
My point is like, it's, look, I'm an extrovert. One of the reasons I made the kids wave, as she talked about when they were really tiny and couldn't move their own arms very well, is, a bit of that was my hope that they would be comfortable around other people. Cautious, but comfortable.
You're also trying to make other people smile, which is
of course. Yeah, that too. But like, I'm not blaming the person who's asking this question and saying this person's thinking that. But if your child or children are shy, do you think less of them? Do you love them less? Like, why are you asking this question? It feels to me like the goal is to make them not shy, as though shy is a fault or something separate from what we want. Some people are more shy. Some people are less shy. I don't see one as better than the other.
Yeah. Okay. That's all we have.
Check. Episode finished. Episode
14. We're so glad you listened with us today. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. We post clips on Instagram at boygirlmomdot.com. We also share everything on blog posts on boygirlmom.com.
That's true.
We have everything on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
We're on Spotify,
Yep.
Apple Podcasts,
Yep.
which you probably already know if you're listening or watching this right now. But yeah, we're so glad you listened and we want to grow with you. So please write in, whether it's a DM or an email, hello@boygirlmom.com. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your opinion. We want to know if you have any questions or help things you need help going through.
Yes.
I need help with my words.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you. And we'll
see you
catch you
soon.
next week.
Yeah. Bye.
Boy, girl, mom, dad. Gotta wash those butts together. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.